Get out of my way. Marcus Hale's voice echoed through the grand hallway of his penthouse. The walls, lined with rare paintings and gold-plated ornaments, trembled under the force of his anger. His secretary froze, clutching a stack of folders, her heart racing. "Yes, sir," she whispered, hurrying away, almost dropping the papers. Marcus slammed the office door behind her and sank into his leather chair. Even surrounded by millions, by luxury few could imagine, he felt empty. Power didn't comfort him. Money didn't soothe the gnawing emptiness inside. And tonight, he was curious. Curious in a way that frightened him. He thought about Angela, his maid. She had worked for him for 7 years. 7 years of quiet loyalty, of moving silently through his mansion, of never making demands, never showing anger. She was invisible to most, and yet she lingered in his mind in ways no one else did. Could she be trusted? Did she really care about me? Or was she just clever enough to play the part of the perfect maid? Marcus rose from his chair and walked to his bedroom. The plan was cruel, yes, but he told himself it was necessary. He would test her loyalty. He would see if she truly cared about him as a person, or if she only saw the billionaire she worked for. He dragged a chair to the doorway and sat down, pretending to be asleep. His heart thumped rapidly. Would she notice if I were hurt? Would she care? A few minutes later, Angela entered the room, humming softly as she went about her work. She moved with quiet elegance, dusting shelves, straightening pillows. She didn't see him immediately. He held his breath as she approached the bed. "Mr. Hale?" she whispered, her voice soft, tentative. Marcus lay motionless. Her eyes softened as she noticed his stillness. She reached out, her hand trembling slightly as she touched his wrist. His pulse was steady, but her relief was palpable. "Oh, thank God," she murmured, her voice catching. She gently lifted the blanket, smoothing it over him. "You've been working too hard. You need rest." Marcus felt a strange pang in his chest. Nobody ever spoke to him with such care. Yet his pride forbade him from showing gratitude. He stayed still, watching her. Angela's hands were gentle as she checked his forehead, adjusting the blanket over his shoulders. "You're burning up," she whispered, frowning. "I need to get your medicine." Marcus's eyes shot open, a flash of shock on his face. "Sir, you were awake?" Angela jumped back. Her surprise matched his, but her concern never wavered. He tried to speak, but no words came. Instead, he simply watched, realizing something profound. This woman, whom he had underestimated for 7 years, was unlike anyone he had ever known. She didn't see him as a billionaire, as a powerful man who controlled empires. She saw him as human. Angela handed him a glass of water, her hands steady despite the tension. "Drink this," she said softly. "You need it." Marcus stared at her. Every movement, every glance, felt deliberate and filled with purpose. The way she cared for him, without expectation, without pride, struck him harder than any insult or flattery ever had. He decided then that he would test her further, not out of malice, but out of curiosity. He had to know who she really was, what drove her, why she had stayed with him all these years. That night, Marcus lay in bed, pretending to sleep once again. Angela entered quietly, noticing his presence immediately. She moved to check his vitals, her hands gentle but confident. "Sir, you really shouldn't do this to yourself," she said softly. "Pretending to be asleep like this, it's dangerous." Marcus didn't respond. He simply watched as she adjusted his pillows, pulled a light blanket over him, and whispered, "I've known you a long time, longer than most. I see the good in you, even when you don't." Her words struck him. He felt something in his chest tighten, a mixture of fear, admiration, and awe. Nobody ever spoke to him like this. Nobody. Angela leaned closer. "You think everyone around you is here for you. But very few truly care about who you are beneath the wealth, the power, the empire. I do. I care about you, not the billionaire. About Marcus Hale, the man." Marcus felt a lump in his throat. He wanted to speak, to tell her he appreciated her, but pride and disbelief held him back. He didn't know anyone could see him so clearly and still choose to care. Days passed, and Marcus continued his little tests. He faked illness, hid minor injuries, and watched Angela's reactions closely. She never faltered. Every test revealed something new, an instinctive understanding, a subtle grace, a moral compass sharper than anyone he had ever known. One afternoon, he asked her casually, "Angela, could you bring me the silver tray from the cupboard?" Angela hesitated, glancing at him, then obeyed. Her movements were precise, almost mechanical, yet soft and deliberate. Marcus watched, fascinated. Later, he asked her to retrieve a package from a safe, a place strictly off-limits to all staff. Her eyes widened slightly, but she approached it without fear. She opened it with surprising skill, handed it over without a word, and returned to her duties, as if nothing had happened. Marcus's curiosity intensified. How does she know how to open that safe? How does she know so much, and yet act so ordinary? That night, he faked a severe illness, more convincing than ever. Angela rushed to his side, checking his pulse, adjusting his pillows, whispering reassurances. "Please, you're scaring me. Don't do this again." As she tended to him, Marcus noticed her phone vibrate. She glanced at it briefly, a flicker of tension crossing her face. He saw a part of a text. "Everything is ready. She must not fail." A chill ran down his spine. Everything is ready? Must not fail? What is she hiding? Angela looked back at him, noticing his gaze. She forced a small smile. "You should rest. You'll feel better in the morning." Marcus tried to speak, to ask her about the message, but his throat tightened. Fear, fascination, and awe collided inside him. He realized that Angela was no ordinary maid. She was something else entirely. The night stretched long. Marcus lay awake, haunted by her words, her presence, and that mysterious text. His empire, his fortune, his power, all of it suddenly felt fragile. He had spent decades testing others, manipulating situations to see the truth. Yet he had been blind to the truth standing right in front of him for 7 years. Who is Angela? He thought, staring at the ceiling. And what is she capable of? He could feel the weight of it pressing down on him. The possibility that everything he knew about loyalty, about trust, about people was wrong. And as sleep finally eluded him, a cold, sharp fear took root. There's more to her than I can imagine. Marcus knew one thing for certain. Tomorrow, he would have to find out. But he also knew this. Whatever he discovered, his world would never be the same again. Mini cliffhanger. Marcus realized that Angela's secrets were far deeper than he could guess. And when he awoke the next morning, he would find that the first hints of her true identity had begun to reveal themselves in ways he never expected. Morning sunlight spilled across the marble floors of Marcus Hale's penthouse, but he didn't notice it. His eyes were fixed on the hallway where Angela moved with quiet precision, carrying trays of breakfast, dusting the windows, straightening the sofa cushions. 7 years of working alongside her, yet today, everything felt different. Marcus had spent the night, replaying the moment he saw that message. Everything is ready. She must not fail. It haunted him. He didn't know whether to feel fear, awe, or suspicion. Angela had always been a mystery, even when he thought he knew her perfectly. He decided to watch her. Discreetly, he would not let her sense his obsession. Pretending to read a newspaper, he followed her every move, the way she handled objects, her posture, the subtle rhythm of her steps. It all seemed deliberate, almost trained. Not a maid's routine, but something far more precise. At breakfast, Marcus decided to test her subtly. "Angela," he said casually, "please bring me the silver tray from the cupboard." Angela's eyes flickered, just for a moment. Then she smiled politely and obeyed. But Marcus noticed a shift in her posture. There was an alertness there, a quiet tension that was unfamiliar. Later, he called her into his study. "Angela, there's an important package in the safe. Could you retrieve it for me?" Her smile faltered. "Sir, that safe is off limits to staff." Marcus leaned back, feigning casualness. "I trust you. It's important. Please." Angela hesitated, then slowly approached the safe. Her movements were precise, almost like a ritual. She entered a combination with perfect confidence. removed the package, and handed it to him without a single word of explanation. Marcus felt a chill. Only his most trusted aides, people he had known for years, could open that safe. Yet Angela had done it effortlessly. There's more to her than I ever imagined, he thought. Throughout the day, he watched her with growing fascination. She moved through the mansion with the ease of someone who had spent years understanding every corner, every detail. Yet her presence was invisible to everyone else. She cleaned, she cooked, she organized, but beneath it, Marcus sensed intelligence, strategy, and something else. He decided to follow her that evening, curious about where she went after her chores. Pretending to read in the living room, he waited. Angela moved silently to the basement, pausing at a laundry rack that seemed ordinary. Marcus's curiosity surged. Slowly, cautiously, he descended the basement stairs, careful not to make a sound. Angela approached a hidden door, pressing a small panel on the wall. The door slid open silently. Marcus froze. Behind was a room he never expected. Computers hummed quietly. Maps of the city covered the walls, blueprints of buildings, grids of streets, photographs of people he didn't recognize. A team of people worked quietly, typing on keyboards, speaking in low voices that Marcus couldn't understand. Angela turned suddenly, sensing his presence. "Mr. Hale?" Her voice was calm, but commanding, sharp enough to make him freeze in place. Marcus stepped out slowly. "Angela, what is this?" She didn't flinch. Instead, she stepped closer, calm and composed. "You weren't supposed to see this," she said softly. "But since you have, I suppose it's time you knew the truth." Marcus felt a rush of fear, awe, and disbelief. The woman he had underestimated for 7 years was operating in a realm he had never imagined. Intelligence, strategy, skill, it all radiated from her, and yet she moved as if nothing unusual was happening. Angela's gaze softened, but her eyes remained sharp. "I'm not just a maid, Mr. Hale. I used to work in government intelligence. Special operations, covert missions, things you wouldn't even believe. I retired after certain events. Now I work here quietly but always prepared." Marcus staggered back, words failing him. Shock, fear, admiration. Emotions collided inside him. The woman he had treated as a servant, who had quietly cared for him, was in fact something else entirely. She stepped closer. "You've judged people by their roles, Mr. Hale. That's a mistake. Never underestimate someone's true worth. Not by their clothes, not by their job, not by what you think they're capable of." Marcus tried to speak, but couldn't. He felt small, almost foolish, as if all his wealth, all his power, all his control over people meant nothing compared to Angela's hidden capabilities. Angela's voice softened. "You think everyone around you is here for you. Very few truly care about the person underneath the money, the empire, the fame. I do. I care about Marcus Hale, not the billionaire." Marcus swallowed hard. His mind raced. 7 years, and I never knew. I never even imagined. Angela noticed a change in him. "I'm not here to frighten you, sir. I'm here to protect, to serve in the ways I can. But you must understand, you've underestimated me, underestimated what I'm capable of for too long." Marcus's heart pounded. His pride fought against the awe-building inside him, but he couldn't ignore the truth staring him in the face. Angela was extraordinary. She was untouchable yet human. He sat down heavily in a chair, his mind spinning. "Why? Why have you stayed here all these years doing this?" Angela smiled faintly. "Because loyalty isn't about wealth or power. It's about choosing to care, even when no one is watching. I could have gone anywhere, done anything, but I stayed because I see something in you that others never did. I saw the man who needed someone to notice him, not the billionaire, and I chose to stay." Marcus felt a lump in his throat. Words he never expected to hear, words of loyalty, care, and truth, pierced through the walls he had built around himself. Angela walked to computers and gestured. "This is my work now. I help those who cannot protect themselves, using whatever means I can. And yes, sometimes it includes protecting people like you." Marcus's mind reeled. The woman he had treated as a servant, a background figure, a helper, was in reality a protector, a strategist, a force that could change events with precision and power. Angela, Marcus's voice was barely a whisper. I never realized. She looked at him, her expression unreadable. Most never do, Mr. Hale. Most never look beyond the surface. But now you have a choice. You can continue seeing me as your maid, or you can acknowledge the truth and understand what is really happening. Marcus's thoughts raced. His empire, his wealth, his reputation, none of it prepared him for this revelation. And yet, he felt a spark inside him he hadn't felt in years. Curiosity, respect, and fear mingled into something he could not name. Angela noticed his hesitation. You have questions, and you'll get answers in time. But for now, you must understand, everything you think you know about me is only the beginning. Marcus felt a cold realization. His life, his world, everything he'd built was suddenly fragile. Not because of enemies, not because of wealth, but because of the presence of a single human being, Angela. The rest of the night, Marcus couldn't sleep. He replayed every moment, every word, every glance. Questions swirled endlessly. Who trained her? How deep does this go? What is she hiding and why? And somewhere deep inside, he felt a twinge of fear. Not for himself, not for his fortune, but for the unknown power of a woman he had thought he knew. The city lights flickered outside the massive windows of Marcus Hale's penthouse, but inside, the world felt smaller, shrinking around him as he watched Angela move with that same quiet precision he had come to fear and respect. For 3 days, Marcus had observed her, followed her subtly, and even attempted to test her limits. Every time he thought he understood her, Angela revealed another layer, another skill, another depth he hadn't imagined. And yet tonight felt different. Tonight, he sensed that he was about to witness something that would change his life forever. Angela stepped out of the bedroom, carrying a folder. Sir, she said softly, there's something I must show you, something you need to see for yourself. Marcus's heart thudded. He had prepared himself for surprises before, but he wasn't ready for this. What is it? He asked cautiously. Angela handed him the folder. Inside were documents, photographs, and handwritten notes, proof of missions, covert operations, and investigations. But these weren't ordinary intelligence files. They were evidence of corruption, crime syndicates, and powerful figures who had evaded justice for decades. These people, Angela said, her voice calm but firm, believe they are untouchable. They bribe, cheat, and manipulate. They think loyalty can be bought. But I've spent years ensuring they face consequences. Quietly, effectively, without ever seeking recognition. That's why I'm here. That's why I chose to remain a maid, a servant in plain sight, so no one would suspect the truth until the right moment. Marcus's breath caught. The woman he had treated as a maid, who had cared for him with patience and kindness, was a silent force of justice in a world where power usually protected the guilty. You've hidden all this under the guise of service, he whispered. All these years. Angela nodded. Yes, loyalty isn't about titles, sir. It's about intention, action, and courage. Many of those I've exposed could have destroyed me, or you, if they ever realized the truth. But I chose to act in the shadows. Not for money, not for recognition, but because it's right. Marcus's mind reeled. For the first time, he realized the magnitude of what she had done. All the tests, all the doubts he had harbored, trivial in comparison to the quiet heroism she had displayed. He felt ashamed. He had judged her, underestimated her, even attempted to manipulate her loyalty. And yet Angela's care for him had never wavered. Her compassion, intelligence, and strength had always been genuine. Marcus struggled for words. I don't know what to say. I've never met anyone like you. Angela's eyes softened. You don't need to say anything, sir. Just understand, never underestimate people based on appearances. True strength is often invisible until revealed. Marcus swallowed hard. And all these people, all these corrupt figures, you've brought them down? Angela nodded again. Yes, quietly, carefully. And now, some of them are under investigation, thanks to evidence I've collected. The law will handle the rest. But I could not do it openly. That would have put lives at risk, including yours. Marcus felt the weight of humility settle over him. He realized that wealth, power, and fame were meaningless if used to measure a person's worth. Angela, the woman he had ignored for years, had done more to protect the city, the people, and even him than anyone in his entire network of executives, lawyers, and security teams. Tears pricked his eyes, but he blinked them away. He couldn't remember the last time he had felt such awe and gratitude. Angela, I misjudged you. I was wrong. Angela smiled faintly. Acknowledging the truth is the first step, sir, and it's never too late to learn. Marcus moved closer, and extended his hand. No, not a hand of business. A hand of respect, of gratitude, for everything you've done, everything you protected, and everything you are. Angela hesitated, then shook his hand firmly. In that simple gesture, a bond formed, one that transcended roles, money, and societal expectations. It was respect, recognition, and the acknowledgment of true worth. The next morning, Marcus called a meeting with his board, assistants, and all the staff. I have something important to share, he began, his voice strong and deliberate. There's someone here you all know, but don't truly understand. Angela has been my maid, my caretaker, but she is so much more than that. She has shown courage, intelligence, and loyalty that surpasses anyone I've ever known. From this day forward, she will no longer be invisible in this household or in my life. Gasps filled the room. Staff who had dismissed Angela for years now looked at her with awe. The same people who had underestimated her, who had laughed at her humble demeanor, were now forced to confront the truth. Appearances deceive. Marcus continued. Angela has protected the city, my family, and even my empire, quietly, selflessly, without recognition. And now, she deserves not only respect, but acknowledgment for her true abilities. Angela stood silently, composed, her gaze steady, but her heart raced. For the first time, she felt fully seen. Later that day, Marcus and Angela walked together through the mansion's grand hall. Marcus turned to her. I've spent my life believing power and money define worth. You've shown me it's courage, integrity, and loyalty that matter most. Angela's lips curved into a faint smile. And you've learned a valuable lesson, sir. That people are more than the roles they occupy. That actions speak louder than appearances. That justice and goodness can exist even in shadows. Marcus nodded. I will never underestimate anyone again, especially you. Angela's eyes softened. That's all I ever wanted. To be seen for who I am, not what I do. Everything else is secondary. As Marcus watched her move gracefully down the hallway, he realized that life had changed, not just for him, but for everyone around them. The billionaire who had tested his maid for loyalty had discovered a profound truth. True greatness often hides in the most unexpected places. Days later, news broke across the city. Corruption rings dismantled, criminals exposed, and public figures held accountable. But nobody knew the face behind it, except Marcus Hale. He had witnessed the work, the courage, and the brilliance of Angela firsthand. And in the quiet of his penthouse, Marcus finally understood something he had never grasped before. Wealth, power, and status are fleeting. But loyalty, courage, and integrity are eternal. Angela moved to the window, looking out over the city she had protected silently for years. Marcus joined her. You've changed my life, Angela, he said quietly. She glanced at him. And you've learned a lesson you needed to learn, sir. Never underestimate the quiet ones. Never mistake humility for weakness. And never forget, the greatest strength often lies hidden. Marcus nodded, humbled, transformed. In that moment, he realized that the world he had built with money and ambition meant nothing without people like Angela. People who acted not for recognition, but for justice, loyalty, and truth. As they stood together, watching the city below, Marcus Hale knew one thing for certain. Appearances deceive. True greatness is often invisible, until the right moment reveals it. And Angela, the maid who had been invisible for years, had revealed herself in the most extraordinary way.